Rand Paul brought up the idea of rescission the other day. Rescission the other day. I suspect this is going to be reintroduced into the American political lexicon over the next few months. It's a tool designed to deal with bloated spending packages. Now, this seems to be an obvious solution, but it's not really being mentioned at all. Why? Well, I have some thoughts on this. Thus, here I am. Now, what is the issue at hand? Well, Congress appears to be ready to pass a continuing resolution that's not only funds the government at a higher rate of spending than last year, it also pretty much reinstates all the funding lines identified by Doge for termination. Why pass a CR that's a bigger version of last year's budget? I suspect it may be a method to keep the budget process out of the hands of the Democrats. If they are allowed to stall the budget process, they allow the media to spin a narrative of all the horrible things the GOP is doing, and it would appear to put the Democrats back on equal footing. The process of shutting down the government and demanding concessions may allow the Democrats to regain their equilibrium. So I think the idea of why everybody seems eager to pass this CR, including Trump and pretty much everybody but Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, I think the idea is to eliminate the drama and remove any appearance that the Democrats have control over the process. So, what's rescission? Well, a rescission package is a formal proposal from the president to the Congress requesting the cancellation of previously approved budget authority, money that agencies have been legally allowed to spend but haven't yet fully utilized. It's a way to claw back funds deemed unnecessary or wasteful, returning them to the Treasury instead of letting them sit idle or be spent inefficiently. Unlike a veto, which rejects an entire bill, the rescission targets specific appropriations, offering potentially a surgical approach to budget control. Now, the rescission process is governed by the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974. And this was put in place because Nixon was attempting to use the powers of impounding, which we'll talk a little bit about later, essentially just refusing to spend the money. And so the rescission, the Impoundment Act and the rescission process was created with the idea of making a functional system for the president to do this, but still keep it within the bounds of congressional spending authority within the Constitution. So, what happens is the president sends a special message to Congress identifying funds to be rescinded, uh, details the amount, affected accounts, reasons for the cuts, and their economic impact, and this is then submitted to the House and Senate. Now, as soon as the proposal is sent, the president is authorized to essentially hold on to this money for 45 days and not allow it to be spent. And this is congressional days in session. Uh, Essentially, it prevents the money from being spent while Congress is making their decision on it. So then the proposal goes to the House and Senate Appropriations Committees, which have 25 days to review it. If they don't act, a member can file a discharge petition, a privileged motion requiring only a simple majority to force a floor vote. Congress then has a full 45-day window to pass the rescission bill, approving all or part of the cuts. Now, here's the part that makes it work. And this is why I'm thinking this is part of the plan, if there is one. Unlike most legislation, a rescission bill can't be filibustered in the Senate. It only needs 51 votes or a majority of those present to pass it, not the normal 60 vote threshold. If Congress approves the bill, then the president signs it and the funds are permanently canceled. If Congress rejects it or takes no action within 45 days, the funds must be released and spent as originally intended. So the question is, has this been done before? Well, yes, it has. Um, Essentially, from 74 to 2000, it was a regular tool for presidents to trim spending. Presidents between 74 and 2000 submitted 1,178 rescission proposals totaling $76 billion. Back when $76 billion was something. Uh, Essentially, Congress approved 461 for $25 billion in savings. Every president from Gerald Ford to Bill Clinton used it successfully to some extent. Bill Clinton was the last president to really use the rescission proposal effectively. Uh, Basically, following Clinton, the rescission process went into decline. George W. Bush nor Barack Obama used even attempted rescissions. Bush tried to do something called a cancellation, but it wasn't a functional legislative tool, so it couldn't be done. Obama didn't even try. Now, this is kind of important to the narrative we're building here is Trump tried to do this during his first term, so he's well aware of what it is. Initially, he proposed a $15.4 billion recession package. And because there was several different things mixed in, uh, the bipartisan Congress basically turned on it and said no. The Senate, of course. And then 2021, right before he was ready to leave office, Trump submitted a $27.4 billion package trying to basically cut down some wasteful spending once again. However, Congress pretty much let it lapse without even entertaining it too much. So, the question of what's actually going on. Um, I suspect that this is part of a long plan of the Trump administration. So, remember, he knows what a rescission package is. And by far, it's the easiest way to cut spending. And he seems to realize that spending needs to be cut. Yet he seems very eager to get this CR passed, claiming he needs it to be able to move forward on the rest of his agenda. I expect that shortly after this CR is passed into law, Trump will begin the rescission process. Now, whether this is going to be big packages or dribs and drabs, not sure. I would think it would be smarter to do small packages where you basically put the most outrageous items Doge found in it and put Congress in the embarrassing position of having to deal with it. So, what are the pros that make this a possibility? Well, again, Trump knows what this is. And two, I find it interesting that this idea isn't being brought up other than Rand Paul seeming to mention it once. In fact, I even heard Steve Bannon talking about the impoundment process rather than the rescission process. So it almost seems like everybody's kind of deliberately avoiding talking about it as if to not telegraph what's going to happen. On the con side of this, yeah, we burned so many times with these continuing resolutions that, quite frankly, if one were to only take history into account, it would seem the most likely thing that's going to happen is that the continuing resolution will pass and be allowed to play out unimpeded throughout. Now, there is a chance that the rescission process may be a bottom up effect rather than top down. And again, this could be orchestrated, where essentially there's a groundswell that forms up on X, uh, where they create some theatrical drama where the fiscal conservatives create a public groundswell so people are worked up so that they ride their Congress members without mercy until their spines stiffen up enough so that the gayer wing of the GOP can get their act together and basically rescind some of these packages. Um, Most of the pros and cons on that concept are about the same, but I would say the biggest con to that is if they're going to do the rescission process, I'm assuming one, that's already in the works, and two, Trump's going to be the one who's going to want to ride that in terms of being the white knight for that particular action. But he could want somebody else to bring it up so that it doesn't look so Trumpian. So it's looks like um, grassroots, low level Congress, maybe someone like Massey coming in saying, "Hey, we need to do some rescissions," and Trump kind of putting up a brave front for a while and saying, "Well, I'll just capitulate in and guess I'll throw some of these packages out." Um, I think it's also possible that the continuing resolution is pretty much the end of the budget process, and what we see is what we're going to get. Uh, and unfortunately, once again, this is just a history thing. We've seen this happen so many times before that it just seems like that's the way it's always going to go. Now, I'm optimistic, so I'm thinking this rescission thing is going to happen. But I'm not going to get suicidally depressed if it doesn't, just because everything that happens with this administration, I'm always leery of what's going to happen because I know there isn't a philosophical grounding to the way they do things. And just kind of as an add on, some people, specifically, I heard Steve Bannon bringing up the idea of impoundment. Impoundment is an executive action, and although some very major players in history used it, including Jefferson, it's kind of considered constitutionally sketchy. Um, it's not really specifically laid out in there. It's not even really an inferred power. And basically, several presidents jumped on the idea trying to do it, and it's been used only here and there, scattered throughout our history. And the last one to really try it was Nixon. And Nixon's attempting to throw several impoundments out triggered a bunch of judicial action, which caused Congress to basically come up with the Impoundment Act, which created this whole rescission process in the first place. I think any attempt to do an impoundment would result in lawsuits. That would probably get shot down because right now you basically judge shop until you find a person who says, "Well, yeah, and all money has to be spent no matter what. That's the law." Like, okay. So I don't think we'll see impoundment happen. But it might be part of the chatter that's going out there in order to distract people from the potential of recessions. Because if everybody realizes how sketchy impoundment is, and that's really the only thing being thrown out there, they're less likely to realize the whole rescission thing's coming online. So, uh, what do you think in the comments below? Is this rescission thing going to happen? Do you think it's a real thing? Is my scenario just a total fantasy that's not going to happen, or is it a possibility? Is this part of if that's the best Grok could do for 4D chess. But I see if the little spot on the wall there is like the interdimensional hole where the other board is. But anyways, so is this another 4D chess thing where the rescission process has been in the works the entire time, and that explains why everyone seems to be eager to put the CR out. Even Congress people who I would think would be raising a fuss over this are very silent on the CR. They're basically, "Oh wow, it's a victory." It's like, but spending's going up. How can it be a victory? So, anyways, tell me what you think. Real, not real. uh, developing as we speak or something that's been in the works. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm's brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, look at my titles. You're going to find stuff you like. Subscribe. Otherwise, if you know somebody who might find this interesting, share it with them. All right. Well, thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.